the one microphone trick that works on all vocals. Why you need this plugin. This tiny box will make your voice sound like Ariana Grande. If you aren't using ribbon mics for your recordings, then f*** you. This new software turns your shitty tracks into radio-ready singles. Indeed, we are all 1 to 12 purchases away from finally being able to make our music in a way that makes us all rich and famous. Welcome to Sittin' with Jimi. I'm Jimi, and this is the channel where we discuss all things creative because creativity is a way of life. Subscribe, hit the bell, grow the channel, blah, blah, blah. Lately, it feels like we are only a few years away from our entire society being enclosed in a fully automated, subject-responsive, 3D, LED, TV advertisement prison. I say prison because it's starting to feel like there's literally no escape from the litany of ads that are being launched at us from all angles at all times. It is not good for creativity. At best, it merely sucks up our creative bandwidth and distracts us from making music and art. But at worst, at very worst, it's subtly over time, gentle as Chinese water torture, programming our brains to believe that we are perpetually just a product or two away from finally being able to achieve our innermost creative goals. Whether it's a plugin or a microphone or a course or a musical instrument, we are being programmed to believe that we simply don't have what we need yet. Now, obviously, there is value in some of these products, and every now and again, we buy a tool or a program that ends up being very useful in our creative endeavors. However, it's very easy to become creatively gridlocked by the overwhelming amount of different tools available to us. Artists are sensitive beings for the most part, and that sensitivity makes us an easy target for companies selling magical products. Products we need in order to move forward with our art. Products that ultimately distract us from the fundamentals of art creation. And these fundamentals come from persistence, awareness, and discipline. These are things no company can sell you. You cannot buy it. We have to understand that when we are trying to make art and express ourselves through art, we willingly put ourselves in a vulnerable position. A position that is subject to ridicule and failure. We have to put our work and ourselves out there and let it go. Whether we consciously recognize it or not, this is a really scary thing to do. It calls on us to compress the perfect, intangible visions of our imagination into tangible and imperfect approximations of those visions. It's fluid and humbling. And it scares us because it shows us that we are not perfect. We don't like that. We don't like it at all. There is so much about the creative process that is frighteningly outside of our direct control. And so we seek control in fantasy. After all, if we just purchased the right thing, if we just bought the right stuff, we wouldn't have to be uncomfortable. We wouldn't have to face reality. I've been through this many, many times. It's usually a piece of gear for me. I get obsessed with thinking that if I just had this one thing, then I'd have what I need. I'd be able to record and play my music the right way. I indulged this fantasy when I bought that amp, that mic, that pedal, that software, that program, that EQ plugin, that thing, that stuff that was going to make it all magically come into focus. I've had times in my life where I've treated things and stuff as if they were 90% of the equation of making art and finishing projects. And it was in those times that I got the least done. Because these products are not 90% of the equation. They're 5%, maybe less. For instance, I started independently producing albums in my early 20s. One of these early projects was with an artist who is now my wife, whose artist name is Girl Blue. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have any crazy expensive gear. I was using a relatively cheap Mo2 8 pre-interface and whatever sound library came standard with Pro Tools at the time. It was called Expanse or Expand. It was by all accounts an extremely low-budget record. We recorded the whole thing in a small bedroom apartment on a busy street in downtown Albany, New York. The first single of that album, Fire Underwater, ended up number 7 on Spotify's New Music Friday playlist. It racked up millions and millions of plays and literally started Girl Blue's career. She's received label interest from those cheap recordings. She's had those cheap recordings placed in national ads and television shows. She's toured the country on the strength of those cheap recordings. The thing that makes her recordings compelling is her songwriting, her amazing voice and emotional performance. The equipment used to capture these songs is completely secondary. So I didn't wait until I had an expensive mic with an expensive preamp and an expensive sound library to record her music. We just did it. We worked with what we had. We also just flat out did not know enough at the time to get all freaked out about whether or not we had the right gear or if we were doing it the right way. We were young and cocky, and so we just did it. The bottom line is, the more conditional you make your artistic process, the less you will get done. You'll become trapped in limbo, forever waiting for the right conditions. Conditions that feel logical, but are for the most part arbitrary. Like, I know it feels like you need that thing, but you really, really don't. Being trapped in limbo is really convenient for your ego. It lets you off the hook and keeps you in a state of always preparing to do the thing and never actually doing it. Only in your mind are your creative concepts perfect. And your ego will jump through whatever hoops it has to keep this perfect self-image intact. It's so good at doing this. You're so good at doing this. And you probably don't even realize you're doing it. Stop looking at gear to fix your fear. Don't overcomplicate it. Every artistic process has limitations. Embrace your limitations. Impose limitations. Limitations are really good for your playing and for your songwriting. For instance, if you are limited to recording songs that are one voice and one acoustic guitar, you are so much more likely to exercise more care over the 3 raw elements that make that recording possible. Those 3 elements are, number 1, the song. Is the song compelling enough on its own that it doesn't need a bunch of production sleight of hand to make it feel good? That's the big one. Number 2 is the vocal. Is your heart behind your voice? Are you putting your soul behind the delivery of the words? Are you in the moment? Are you creating a moment? Number 3, is your guitar playing supporting the song in the right way? Is it rhythmically in time? Is it in tune? Is there any way to spice it up so it's more interesting without getting in the way of the song? Spend time focusing on these basic variables. How can I create a magical musical moment that doesn't depend on a bunch of bells and whistles to make it compelling? Being able to do this is foundational. Don't get caught up chasing gear and products until you can make a song come to life without gear and products. The song is it. The cheapest mic in the world becomes a tool of the highest caliber when it's recording a great song and a great performance. I have yet to find the holy grail piece of gear that makes spending time writing, editing, and rehearsing unnecessary. It's not about the gear. It's about the imagination and competency of the artist using the gear. Don't be fooled. The world is getting more and more manically consumer-minded every minute of every day, and it is harming the creative spirit. For many, this message and a lot of the stuff I talk about on this channel will resonate, and they'll get really excited by it. And then they'll sit down and try to actually put it into practice. And it will be really uncomfortable. And they'll think, that Jimi guy says a lot of words, but it's all a bunch of baloney because now I feel worse than I did before. We are so coddled by philosophies that let us walk around thinking creativity is a linear process with guaranteed repeatable results. These are consumer philosophies that trap people in illusions Creativity is not a linear process, and it's not always comfortable. I'm going to close this video out with a quote I saw the other day that really resonated with me. It comes from Leland Val van de Waal. The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth he or she can accept about themselves without running away. Limitations are good. Bravely embrace limitations. Make fearless artistic statements no matter what gear you are using. I promise you, the magic is not in the tools. It's in the spirit and care with which you create and the resolution of your imagination. For every artist out there convinced they need an expensive mic and preamp before they can make good art is another artist making incredible soul-stirring art with what they have. These artists make the notion of needing a bunch of gear to create seem really silly. Don't waste away in perpetual potential just to protect your ego. Be brave and let it rip. Don't wait, create. Thank you for watching. I hope this is valuable to you guys. I don't know. I enjoy making these, and a lot of the stuff I talk about is just firming up what I believe, and it helps me to kind of organize my own philosophy with how I create my music. Feel free to check out my music on Spotify. Subscribe to this channel if you like these messages, if you like this video. It does help the channel grow, and it would be great if more people could be helped by these philosophies. I truly appreciate you watching and your support and your comments. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. Get out there and make something. Let's do it. Let's go.